What's going down, D-Gens? Back again for Thanksgiving week. Hopefully everybody gets to eat at least thirds, right, or fourths. I mean, that's what alphas do, I'm sure. That's what I do. I'm going to get like 10 plates and sit down on the couch at one time. So, anyways, let's get into it. Last week, perfect week of, you know, why everything is so damn sharp, why you need to get a good number, why teasers are the way to go for this time of the year, all that kind of stuff. So, as far as what we did last week, officially we go 2-1-1, but I mean, I hate to say this, but I got one of the lines better earlier before it got posted. So, personally, I went 3-1. I think some of you out there probably did go 3-1 if you followed the picks. But either way, even if you went 2-1-1, I mean, still a winning week. So everything is at minus 110. It worked out. You basically just didn't make as much. But that being said, the pick that was wrong was the Miami minus 13.5, and that is really frustrating. Just like all the other losses that we've had, right? But this one, again, very similar to like the Ravens loss we had a couple weeks ago. We got the right team. The team definitely won. It was really never in question. I mean, on the scoreboard it seemed close, but the Dolphins were just the better team, hands down. Wasn't even close. It's like every time the Dolphins got the ball, they just drove down the field, and either they kicked the field goal or they just punted it away because they were like, it's the Raiders. What are they gonna do? So they get the win. They win by 7, and that's kind of where we get into the push here, if depending again on the line you got. So I had it at Miami minus 4 because I jumped on it early. If you got on it late, you got Miami minus 7, so you got the push. But either way, again, at least it was a push. So they win by 7. Yeah, that's where it's at. Anyways, so the teaser leg of that was the Rams plus 7.5. That obviously that covered. Rams even win by 1 point. The other straight pick though was Ravens minus 3 for the first half. That one covered. Actually, probably the better half if you're asking me as far as just watching football. Because the second half we didn't have any Joe Burrow, so that was kind of a pain in the ass for Thursday night. But whatever. So we get the win on that one. And then the other win that we get is the Cowboys Lions teaser. Cowboys minus 4.5. They win by, I believe it was 22 points off the top of my head. Lions minus 3. Now that one I will admit we get at least a little lucky with the strip sack fumble. They went through that through the back of the end zone and gets us a safety. We would have gotten a push, so it wouldn't have been completely terrible. But that would have really sucked to go 1-1-2 with the lines that were so damn close. The Lions should have won that game, without question. But Jared Goff was intent on making bad decisions, so he kept them in the game. As far as the Bears are concerned, it actually had them with a lead for the majority of that game until the very end there, where he gets the 2 drives and comes back, and then again we get the safety to get the win by 5. So I was sweating that one. I'll take it. Like I said, it was a little lucky, but you got to get the ball to bounce your way sometimes. I know I've said this before, especially if you've been with me throughout the entire year. I've said this. A lot of these games, if we're doing our job right, it's going to still come down to a coin flip. And what you're really hoping for is that coin flip goes your way. And sometimes it does, sometimes it won't. Now, obviously, there's times when there's just a blowout, right? Maybe it's for you or against you, and those are always good, right? If you're on the sweat-free side of that, but the coin flips are going to be the majority of your games here, and stuff like this is going to happen. It's going to go your way, and you got to take it when you can get it. So again, luck. I'm not pounding my chest, not saying it was all great, but we get it. So that's how last week went. Like I said, just want to illustrate why it's so important to get good numbers. I've had a lot of people ask me, not necessarily online, just even in person, real life. Is it really that important to get a 3 instead of a 3.5? What's the difference between getting a 5 and a 6? And to most people, if you're not betting every day or you're not betting every week in football, it may not seem like a big deal. But especially in the middle of the season, and I'll say this over and over and over again, middle of the season is very, very sharp. The books have all the information that they need. They're going to have very sharp lines, and that's just how it goes every year. So this is the best time to use your teasers, get through those key numbers, because we know that they're going to be pretty damn accurate with their lines, with the lines that they put up to begin with, and then that's our tool to kind of fudge those numbers a little bit. So again, good reason to use the teasers right now, as well as just be aware that the lines are very sharp. So let's move on to week 12. First of all, we do have a purple pick for this week. That's the Dolphins and the Jets. Now the Dolphins, we have predicted them correctly 4 out of 5 weeks. Last week is the one week that it was a little off, and again, I do believe that's pretty much known at this point. The Dolphins could have put up more points had they felt the need to. They just didn't really get pushed at all in that game. So either way, they still qualify for the purple because we've predicted them again 4 out of 5 weeks correctly. Same thing with the Jets. Dolphins -10. Right now, we have the Dolphins really winning this game about 33 to 10, 33 or 30 to 10, depending on which way you want to go with your rounding as far as if you think you're going to get that extra field goal or not. But either way, we're expecting them to win by at least 20 points against this Jets team. Now, the only caveat to this is that the Jets are starting Tim Boyle, and we're not really sure what he's going to do. But a couple of things here kind of help me in making this decision. So, number one, if Tim Boyle was worth a damn and any good at all, he would have been the starting quarterback a long time ago when the fans and the public and ESPN and everybody else was begging to see somebody else besides Zach Wilson. Number two, the Jets are starting a 3-game homestand. And I'm going to show you the stats here in just a second, but the first game in that 3-game homestand is not good, and there's one more spot in that 3-game homestand, or really around that 3-game homestand, that it's going to give us an edge, and it's going to come up here pretty soon. Other than that, though, we do have 3 picks that are all on the totals. We've actually done really good on the totals this year, and I'll get you that number here in just a second as well. But the 3 totals that we're taking is Titans, Panthers, under 37. Make sure you get 37. If you see a 36.5, keep looking. I guarantee you there's a book out there right now that has a 37. It's actually GT Bets. At least that's one of them. Chiefs, Raiders, under 43.5. I actually have this game projected to go at 41 points, and for the most part, both of these teams have been performing under expectations. So under 43.5, just in case you didn't know, 40 and 41 have been very key this year as far as totals are concerned. 43 is a key number as well, typically with totals, but it's a lesser key number. It's like 2 to 3%. But for that reason, we still want to get that hook. So get the under 43.5. Cardinals, Rams. So this is one of those picks that I had talked about before, actually in the off season. I talked about it again not too long ago with the Ravens Bengals game, where we had the over in that game. Now, that being, I'm sorry, the Ravens Browns game, where we had the over. And I was saying this is one of those big ones. This is one of those, hey, you can put like a life-changing amount of money on this if you want to. These things are going to hit, or they traditionally have hit 90%. And that's not just over 1 year. That's over a course of about 10 years. We know more or less how this is going to hit. Now, that being said, this game in particular, I'm actually expecting it to go closer to about 49 points. Why am I trying to get it down to 41? So, number one, the line out there right now is 44.5. I'm not saying that I hate it, but that's not going to cut it as far as being able to qualify for that 90% projection. We need to get it down to 41. Number two, the key numbers, like I just said, are 40 and 41 for the totals. If you want to get it down to 40, I don't blame you. I would myself. But a lot of books are not offering that. A lot of books are going to stop it at 41. So make sure you get down to the 41 unless you want to tease this game with something else. That being said, again, now that one is one of our higher picks for really the year, just like that Browns-Ravens game. So I myself are going to be laying 2 units on that. And then lastly, we have the teaser with the Lions and the Cowboys. Again, this is 2 weeks in a row where the teaser is exactly the same 2 teams, Lions and Cowboys. Both of these teams are represented very well by the public as well as by the books, meaning that their lines are very sharp. So they are exactly where they should be. Let's use the teasers again to get them off of that sharpness. So it's going to get the Lions down to -1.5. going through the 7, the 6, and the 3. Cowboys down to -5. From 11, some books have already moved it up to 12, so you can get it down to 6. I may be more inclined to do a 6.5 point teaser if it is at 12, only so that you can get it completely through the 6. But either way, that's the teaser for this week, guys. So those are the picks. Just real quick to give you a little example of where we're at with the 3-game homestands. So there have been a couple so far this year. 49ers, Browns, Rams, Steelers, Ravens, they've all completed their 3-game homestands. Now, something that you'll notice, all of them, and you see it in red, I believe they are all in red. Yes, they are. So 49ers went 3-0 at home, immediately lost when they traveled away from home. Now, one thing to note in that 49ers game, that's weeks 3 through 5. That's still very, very early in the season. So there's not a whole lot that's happened there just yet. There's not a lot of injuries and not a lot of fatigue. So keep that in mind. But either way, week 6, they travel away, they immediately lose. The Browns, 4 through 7, they go 2-1. The game that they lose is the first game. The first game, they drop it. It just didn't look like a great game. Now they didn't have Deshaun Watson, so maybe that's kind of a throwaway. But same thing, as soon as they leave week 8, they lose. They lost immediately as soon as they traveled away. The Rams, week 5 through 7, again we see that this team loses the first game of the 3-game homestand, and then again we see that they lose immediately after traveling away from home. Now keep in mind they lost to the Eagles in their first game. So again, maybe it's kind of a throwaway, right? Maybe it's just they played a good team. The Browns were missing Deshaun Watson. We have the Steelers. Again, they lose the first game. They lost it outright to the Jaguars. Kenny Pickett suffered an injury. Kind of an issue there. Now, that being said, they also played against Dorian Thompson, so DTR, instead of Deshaun Watson. So, I'm sorry. That was the game as soon as they left the house. So when they leave, again, last week, week 11, they go on the road, they immediately lose again. So we see this trend of every time these teams play these 3-game homestands and then leave, they're losing immediately. And that's not just one instance. That's all of the teams, no matter who they played. In this case, they had the Steelers going up against a backup quarterback, and they still couldn't get the win. They really couldn't even get the cover if you got the 3 like I did, as soon as you heard the news with Watson being out. So who meets that criteria this week? It's the Ravens. The Ravens have just finished their 3-game homestand. So they actually did win their first game against Seattle, but they lost the second one to the Browns. That's a divisional opponent, so that's at least somewhat, respectable. But they lost, or they won the first game against Seattle, and it was a blowout. Now that one, again, maybe that first week, maybe it's just good teams win that first week. Who knows? It was also, they had to get ready for the Thursday night game, so a little bit different there. That being said, the Ravens, again, first trip away from home. What throws this one off, though, is that they just played their Thursday night game. So they did have a mini bye, and they're going to be playing against the Chargers, who obviously did not have that. So which trend is going to win out here? Is it going to be the mini bye team traveling on the road that gets the win, or are we going to see another team lose after their 3-game homestand? Personally, I'm going to put some money on the Chargers, and this is kind of a funny play, so that's why I didn't put it in the lineup. Take the Chargers plus the 3.5 right now. Just for a small play, just a small bite, like a quarter of a unit. Once we get closer to the beginning of the game, you may even be able to get the Chargers at like +4, so you can hold on to it a little bit. I don't see too much money coming in on the Chargers until we get closer to the game or even live. Either way, what you want to do, though, is you want to get the Chargers +3 or more. Live, we can try to get it with the Ravens. Now, if the game goes according to plan and the Chargers are winning or they're up or they're giving them a run for their money, we may be able to get the Ravens plus a few points during the game. And the same thing, we want to get the Ravens +3 at least during the game, because I do feel like this is going to be a 3-point game one way or the other. Even though I have the Ravens as the much better team, the way that these trends are going and the way that these teams match up, the Chargers are great at stopping the run. The Ravens have not showed us a whole lot of air game, especially now that Mark Andrews is out. I'm trying to get both sides here plus 3.5, or at least plus the 3. So that's how we're going to try to play this one. The Texans started their 3-game homestand last week. They won the game, but they looked very mediocre and they did not cover. This week we have the Jets starting their 3-game homestand, which is why we took the Dolphins. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. Appreciate that. Thank you for all your support. I will see y'all soon, and hopefully let's make some damn money. Happy Thanksgiving!